host, along with co host Roy Piskadlo. And we are doing a podcast through KMMU, Main Street Media. And the name of our show is going to be Truth and Consequences. And we would ask you to bear with us as we work through any difficulties we may have with this brand new podcast. But we're very excited to give this a try and let the cards fall where they may. And really, our goal is to just bring truth and honesty to the airways and have considerate dialogue with views that agree with us and views that are opposed to us, all comers. But we ask that you always keep it respectful, but lively. We don't want to be boring either. There's nothing worse than being bored to death, and hopefully we don't do that. Many people have asked us why we're doing this, and that's a really good question. So I sat down, gave it some thought, and actually wrote down a few notes on that. And the answer really is we are the people, and we are where the Constitution begins, and we are the owners of this land, and we as the people have the authority. Our founding fathers of this nation understood that there'd be, from time to time, governments that became tyrannical. And I think that this nation is certainly approaching that. And I think we've all noticed it at some level in our lives. We have less and less freedoms than we used to. And we don't want our kids to grow up in a country like that. We want our children to know the freedoms that we had. We want our government to be watchers of our freedom, as the Constitution has spelled out for us, and not those that just mandate to us. We have inalienable rights in this country, as it states in the Declaration of Independence, to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And our government has really failed to protect that from us, or for us. Rather, they've strived in many ways to take those rights from us. Inalienable rights, rights given from God that no man or power under God has the right to take away from us. So Roy and I are here to defend that, to try to bring back that freedom that this country was made upon, that the ideals that this country was formed under God, and that there is no power greater than God, and the rights given by God need to be protected for us by those that we elect in office. Years ago, when I say they, the powers that be, our government officials, the Board of Education and others have come for our children, and they have very much succeeded in that. We need to awaken to the fact that that is indeed what's happening. And we need to come to action. It is truly our duty to do that as citizens of this great nation. Roy and I both believe that we will win this battle to save this nation and remain that beacon of light upon the hill. But it's going to take effort. It's going to take effort on our part, and it's going to take effort on your part. So I'd like to introduce my partner and associate, Roy Piskadlo, who I initially met, who was alleged chair in my precinct that I'm in, and that's how we first became associated. And I'd like him to take a minute and introduce himself. Roy?
Thanks, Steve. My name is Roy Piskadlo. I live in the Salt Lake Valley, a neighbor of Steve's, and Steve and I became acquainted when I began talking to Steve about election integrity issues. Both of us became very interested in understanding our election systems and understanding how elections were being conducted after the 2020 election. And Over time, gradually, what we learned became quite shocking. And Steve and I have been traveling the state of Utah, talking to um, county clerks, county commissioners, board of canvassers, talking about election integrity and how to improve that. And that has been a strong focus of our friendship and effort in terms of, as Steve was just mentioning, bringing back this nation and bringing it back under the control of us, you, all of us, the voters, so that we know that the people that we are electing are indeed being elected by us, the people.
Yeah, I mean, that's what really brought us together initially, and just understanding that second only to God, if we don't have fair elections, I mean, if you think about it, every single policy that we have that we're governed by is made by those that are in office or appointed by those that are in office. And if we can't trust that those people are the ones that are indeed elected, and let's be clear, it's not a Democrat, it's not a Republican thing, it is a people thing, an American thing. Who was duly elected? If that is something that we can ensure, then we can all live with that and adjust to that. But if they're being stolen from us, as we believe they are, then we don't have a country at all. We have a tyrannical government that is making all the decisions for us, to include who is actually in office. So that's what brought us together. I think what Roy and I would really like to do is just kind of maybe this first hour of our first broadcast ever, just have a conversation about what we've experienced and as we've traveled around the state. As Roy mentioned, we have been doing that to each county. We've been to 25 counties now out of Utah's 29 counties. And we've learned so much just meeting with the clerks and Board of Canvass members and various staff members, that we didn't know what we didn't know until we got out on this journey. And, you know, we've learned a lot about the state and the people that run the state. And Roy, wouldn't you say that one of the most remarkable things, and at least eye-opening things to me, was how we found out in talking with people that they're really good, actually really good people, and they actually really want to do what is right. We're talking about our county clerks and Board of Canvass members and so forth. Is that, have you experienced that as well?
Oh no, absolutely. I think one of the toughest jobs in government is being a county clerk. They wear many, many hats, and running and conducting an elections is just really one of many hats. But since 2020, it has become a more pressing issue for them because they are under the microscope. That's one thing. Another thing that I learned anyway is that the election code is very, very complicated, and the county clerks want to do the right thing. They are being told that they have to conduct these elections using a variety of methods, most notably the mail-in ballots. And conducting an election with mail-in ballots and making sure that you're following all the rules, which very frequently are written poorly and in contradictory ways, and many of them are just trying to do the right thing and keep up.
That's true. I was really shocked, to be honest with you, because I had a different view of what I thought a county clerk was and what they acted like. And although they were very hesitant at first to take our meeting because they thought we were coming in to be very critical of them, the fact is we weren't. We just wanted open dialogue with them. And once we were in the door, once we finally did get that meeting and were able to sit down with them, within a 5 or 10 minute conversation, they seemed to relax and understand that we had good intent with them, that we were in discovery mode, that we really wanted to just talk with them about the process and what their perspective of the process is and how they feel about it in general. And quite honestly, we've gotten a lot of diverse opinions and from the clerks and also the Board of Canvass members, defensive at first, but then softening and very open to ideas. And one other thing I wanted to mention was you mentioned the election code. It's 463 pages long now. It's election code 20A, Utah Title Code election 20A, and it references other codes such as Administrative Code 63G, which in essence makes the election laws 600 plus pages long if you add all the documents together. And didn't you find, Roy, that the clerks in general found it very confusing that the document itself contradicted itself, they said, and also that it was so cumbersome that many of them hadn't even read it?
That is true. And just for our listeners, one thing that I learned in this whole process was, the elections are run at the county level, subject to the state rules. This is not just in Utah, it's in every county. There's 3,000 some odd, like 3,200 counties in the United States. And the county clerks and or in larger municipalities, the municipalities themselves run the elections subject to the state laws. And so it's really up to the county clerk to interpret the rules and then try to conduct the elections in their county in a way that's consistent with the state and federal rules, and then really respond and answer to their constituents. The actual election in each county is certified by what is called the Board of Canvassers. Sometimes people will have heard the canvassing the election. What that really means is the county clerk or the municipality that's running the election will conduct the election, and then they will write a report for the county Board of Canvassers.
Which essentially is this one and the same as the county council, or in some cases, the county commission.
Right. And then they will then certify the election as being conducted correctly and fairly and accurately. And one thing that I took for granted was when I heard the term, and probably many of you on listening right now have heard, that when an election is certified, I thought it was certified like a lot of things that we take for granted, like, a doctor is a certified member of the board of medicine, or a lawyer has passed the bar and is, essentially certified to practice law, or
So anything really that certifies anyone to do anything, such as an airplane mechanic, or we just trust that it's been looked over.
Somebody with expertise has done due diligence and has confirmed that everything has been done according to plan, according to the law, and that the results are accurate. And nothing could be further from the truth. The certification in the context of an election really isn't a certification. So it is really a county council members or county commissioners that are members of the board of canvassers read a report that it was produced by the county clerk who actually conducted the election, and to the best of their ability in 99.99% of the cases produces a report that they think is accurate. They hand it to the board of canvassers, and the board of canvassers read the report. They don't.
But hold on one second, Roy. If somebody has a set of standards they need to meet, they know what the rule book is, and they know what the questions are, such as the bar exam. They can pass that test because they've studied for the right thing. But one of the things that we found, not in all cases, but in most, I would say, is that they don't know what the rule book is for sure. Because at times, like I said,
True.
it's been
the board of canvassers really, I can't think of a single board of canvassers that I've met, either in Utah or in some of the other states we've spoken with, that have read their rules, their election rules, and actually understand them as well as somebody who is an expert in that.
right. And even when, if you go to take a test, but the answers to the questions are contradictory, if you will, which way are you supposed to answer that question? And that's what I guess I'm suggesting with the county clerks. Oftentimes, they don't know what it is that's really expected of them for the answer. So they do the best they can based on the understanding they have with a very long, cumbersome, hard to read and understand document that's been building and building and building for year upon year. It's hard to understand what the rule book is. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And over time, as we added mail-in balloting, which was demanded by our state legislators in response to what they thought the public wanted, what has happened is the process of running an election has become much, much more complicated, which then becomes much more demanding on the county clerks. And that becomes particularly in the much smaller rural counties in many states, including Utah, who have a very difficult time, conducting a mail-in election, say in Daggett County, is convenient for the constituents, the residents of Daggett County, for example.
And Daggett County has, just so you know, about 1,200 residents.
Right.
Hardly any.
Hardly any. And the budget to conduct an election in a smaller county is obviously much smaller, yet the complexity of running that election is just as high, although with fewer ballots cast, than, say, Salt Lake County. And so
by a long shot, yeah.
By a long shot. So managing that process is far more difficult for the smaller rural counties like Iron County, Paiute County, Daggett County, than, say, Salt Lake County or Davis County. And many of them are very apprehensive about running the election, and it's very difficult for them to do that, and they don't. It's also very hard from the smallest county to the largest county to actually have the expertise in-house to be able to understand whether the election was accurate. You have to be a database expert. You have
to that point, I mean, we ran into, I'm not going to name names right now, but we ran into some county clerks that said, we really welcome the help because it's our desire to do the best job that we can possibly do. They don't want to mess up.
And to demonstrate to their residents, their constituents in their county, that they are doing the best job that they can possibly do.
And that's an excellent point, because oftentimes we heard that there was angry residents would come in and they would put all of the blame on the county clerk if the results that happened to come in were something that they disagreed with. So many, if not all, county clerks, and we didn't find any that we felt were acting in a nefarious manner at all, to be honest with you. But they welcome the help because they want to do the best job. And they understand that they don't always have, like you said, Roy, all of the resources that they need.
Right. And yet they, many times through lack of understanding, certainly I did not understand when I first started digging in to this issue to try and understand, okay, well, what do you have to do to actually conduct an election? And what does it mean to actually certify an election? And that has been a learning process. It's been something self-directed, learning not only from people here in the state, but from people across the country. And one of the things that we've learned in our travels and throughout Utah is because the county clerks are under such scrutiny and they are being blamed oftentimes by people who were just as had just as much of a lack of understanding as you and I did when we first started this, and yet these people are going in and just blaming the county clerk,
right,
without even really understanding the process.
One of them even said that a citizen came in and actually pulled a knife on them. They were so upset.
So one of the things that the county commissioners has said to us, more than one, is it is difficult to recruit county clerks for the job of being a county clerk, which they have they wear many hats, they have many responsibilities, not just elections, but keeping track of property deeds and so on, that it's hard to recruit people to even go run for election that are qualified to actually do the job as county clerk.
Well, underappreciated for sure, underpaid, absolutely. They work hard, and then they have a month every other year that they're balls out trying to get an election done. Well, the rest of the year, and they don't have the staff to do that because it's ramping up from daily activity to 100%, 110% go, and not having the adequate staff or volunteers necessary to complete the process adequately.
So one of the things that we started to see that was lacking. Really? Why? But we have not seen a real certification process. Steve and I have talked to probably around 20 to 25 states, people in 20 to 25 states in the country, trying to understand how their election process works. And what we've noticed is, while the laws are different, there's slight differences in state to state with regard to the state laws. The processes and the shortcomings in each state are very similar, and the responsibility of the county clerks is similar, and the friction that exists between the county clerks and the board of canvassers and the citizens is also very similar.
Yeah. We could talk literally for hours about our experiences, not only with the meetings, but later on, we'll talk about some of the experiences in our travels outside of actual meetings and what we've seen in the state, which has been amazing to travel around and see different things that neither of us, quite frankly, have seen. And we're going to love the opportunity to talk more about that in coming shows. But this is Steve Aste and Roy Piskadlo. We are on what we're calling Truth and Consequences. because we want to speak the truth here. We want to talk to people that have different perspectives. We are focusing mainly on election integrity, but not exclusively. I think we're coming out of the gate talking about that because we recognize that as one of the primary issues in our country that undergirds just about everything else that happens in this country. That is who we have in office. And we want to ensure that our system is intact, that it's transparent, and that citizens can feel comfortable that the person that's in office was the duly elected person.
And the person who's in office knows that the elections accurately reflect the opinions of their constituents and know that they have to respond to them.
That's very true. So this is a live show. This is a call-in show, and I want to throw out the number so you guys can gear up to start calling in because we'd love to start speaking with some of you. The number here is 385-899-2134. I'll say it again. It's 385-899-2134. And you can also go to KMMU.org to listen live among the other channels that are out there on Twitter, Rumble, and YouTube. And this is Roy and Steve, and we're just going to continue our dialogue. We'll open up the phone lines here pretty shortly. Going back to why Roy and I are doing this and how our plan kind of initially came together. I, for one, I've been asleep at the wheel, as many of us have. And following the 2020 election, I stood with my wife and I said, what can we do? What can we do? This is out of control. Our country is out of control. How does a person get involved to make a difference? And so that's where it started with me. And through that, I met with Roy, jumped in both feet, and I've got some interference here. I'm not sure what that is. But it's hard to know what to do. And that hopefully, as we lead through this program, we can help guide and direct those of you that want to get involved, but don't know exactly how to. And it's really a matter of just jumping into something that you're really passionate about. And this is something that Roy and I were very passionate about. And that's why we got involved. We're kind of an oddball couple, I would say, but couple, wrong word. Don't take that the wrong way. But Roy's background is in physics and in finance. And so he's kind of like what I would say, I don't want to say the brains, but I will say the brains. I'm more of the
good looks.
The good looks, yeah. Kind of that. Well, we have to put some kind of label on me, and I guess that I don't want to say I'm bad looking, but anyway. So we collaboratively came up with an idea, really based off some work that Roy had done in the past in his professional life. And it's a process that I'll have Roy explain based on Sarbanes-Oxley and the whole Enron meltdown back in 2002. And so Roy suggested that we could take that, and it's a process of certifying publicly traded companies, essentially. And the parallels to how that could work with an election are very compelling to us. And so over time, we've looked at ways that we could implement this. And that's why we started getting feedback from county clerks and so on. I'd like Roy to maybe explain how that Sarbanes-Oxley came about and how it actually might apply to our elections.
Yes. So my career, I've spent my career primarily in New York, but I've worked in London and Houston and Mexico City, and it's in finance. I was a banker, and I've worked on, doing transactions like mergers and acquisitions, financings, as well as worked in trading environments, both fixed income, equity, and commodities, physical commodities. And what is common among all of those practices is
That's practices for some of us lay people.
practices is that the people who are risking money, either investing in a company, buying bonds of a issued by a company, trading, always need to know exactly what is happening with the company in which they're investing, or the trading activity that they're investing in. And that requires that the people who are actually doing the business, if a company is producing financial statements, or if you're a trading group, that you are actually monitoring all your positions and can accurately represent exactly what's happening at any minute of the day. And you have to do reporting. And what the people who are the recipients of those reports, what they want to know is, hey, who's looking over your shoulder? Who's making sure that you are doing everything exactly according to your policies and procedures, and that whatever you're reporting to me has been reported accurately. And so there's processes like audits.
Why shouldn't we just trust them, Roy?
Well, they wouldn't. Of course, they trust them. Otherwise, they wouldn't invest money with them. They wouldn't hire these people to do the work that they're doing. Of course, they trust them.
But I know, but why would we go on to hire additional people to look over their shoulder? Why wouldn't we just rely on those individuals that we elect to office, for example, to give us the results and go with it?
Two reasons.
Okay.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Okay.
And you want to make sure that you're not making a mistake. Just like we said, the county clerks did not want to make, they wanted to make sure that they weren't making a mistake.
True.
Okay. And then the second thing is as Kissinger once said, we have to trust but verify. And you have to set up a process where different people, there's checks and balances, just like the way our government is set up, and different people can then basically answer to other people and check the work of other people, not because they don't trust them, but because they want to make sure that a mistake hasn't occurred. And as a result of doing that, if you have set up the proper checks and balances and have different ways of making sure that the policies are run right and that the software is run right, you also catch, or can catch, if somebody's actually deliberately trying to do something wrong to their advantage, for their own personal advantage or advantage of a group of people, you can actually catch that too. So both things, these checks and balances and these certification processes that need to be put in place, are very, very important. And you cannot have a system that you can say is complete without actually having those checks and balances and separate certification processes.
That's I agree with all that. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Lowell Nelson, who is officially our first caller on our radio show, Truth and Consequences. Unfortunately, he's calling from vacation, and the call was not ready to go through, or was unable to come through. It was very staticky. We do want to throw the number out again to call in live, 385-899-2134. It's 385-899-2134. So Roy, if I'm going to invest money in something, and a significant amount of money, let's say for my retirement, I'm looking around at good investments to make. I want to know, when I'm looking into a certain company, and when I get a hold of their prospectus, when I get a hold of their financial statements, that is true and accurate information. Isn't that a lot like what we're suggesting here with checks and balances to make sure that the information i.e. elections, financial information, is true and accurate, and we're not being misled in any way?
That's precisely what we're suggesting with regard to elections. So going back to the certification discussion we had a moment ago, what we said was if somebody certifies a financial statement as being true and accurate, usually it is an accounting firm, like an Ernst & Young or something like that. They come and say, hey, this company, I certify these financial statements as being accurate and true and and being filed and prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. What that allows is for investors to know with confidence that the numbers that they're reading are consistent with numbers that are being prepared and financial statements that are being prepared with not only companies that are within the same industry so they can accurately compare the performance of each company, but also consistent across countries where different companies operate, and that there's no funny business with regard to fraud or anything else like that.
Well, wait a second. Aren't our election officials above reproach here? Shouldn't we look at them that way?
True, as we should. That is exactly what you look at the CEOs and CFOs of various companies that are preparing these financial statements and their internal finance staff, as well as the accounting firms that are actually out there certifying these financial statements. Many of them consider themselves beyond reproach, and
I suspect that a lot of our elected officials consider themselves above reproach as well. Yeah,
true, but they also realize that other people don't realize that that they need to demonstrate to other people that they are beyond reproach, and they, particularly after Enron, and I'll go into that in a second, are perfectly happy and actually want, just like we said, some of our county clerks want to do the same.
I'd suggest almost all of them. In fact, I can't point to one that said, "Hey, no, I don't want to do what's right." I mean, they all want to do what's right.
Right, and it's just a matter of demonstrating, creating a process that is evaluated by third parties that are experts in the field and can understand how the election, not only understanding our election code, but also understanding how the processes work at the database level, at the machine level, because a lot of our elections are now being conducted by machine, and making sure that even to the best of the ability of the county clerk, that something didn't happen beyond their control.
Right,
and then that,
as we like to say, oftentimes they don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So while they think they may be doing everything correctly, there's things such as the programming of the machines, etc., that they have no technical expertise.
How the signatures are verified by the machines.
And so many other things.
And databases managed.
Right. There's so many things that we have yet to talk about that we want to talk about. And we will over the course of the next hour and 15 minutes. We do have a guest that's coming on at 5 o'clock, Dwayne Benson. He is kind of our man behind the scenes. He's been involved with us for a couple of years now. He will be joining us about 5 o'clock. But right now, we would like to open up the phone lines if anyone is interested in calling in. Again, that number is 385-899-2134. If you're like us or if you're not like us, we'd like to hear from you. We're interested in saving our country. This is how we happen to be going about it. We're trying to get the word out about what is happening in our elections, what we believe to be a good solution to that, which we've not fully gone into yet. We're just kind of brushing the surface at the moment. But please give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to discuss any ideas that you might have. And so there you have it. So Roy, we have a plan, and I think that we can get into the details of Sarbanes-Oxley, which people need to know, but just from a time limit standpoint, if we could give a 300 or a 3,000, 30,000 foot level view of what our goal is, how would you describe that? What is our end game? What are we trying to accomplish? We started with talking with county clerks and Board of Canvass members with the idea to garner and gain information about the process in general and what they're thinking. But where do we go from here? What should we be doing now? And what is our goal for 2024?
The goal is, in a nutshell, radical transparency so that individuals like our listeners here and the two of us can independently verify that the election was conducted fairly and accurately. Okay, that means getting access to all the data that get produced when an election is conducted.
What do you mean by that? Can't we just walk in and get the data right now?
No, the short answer is no.
Okay.
There's a lot of data that we won't go into the detail here. For example, well, a little bit, getting access to things like ballot images, not necessarily who voted and how they voted, but the ballot images themselves of how the votes were actually cast. Things like access to the machines so that we can make sure that the files were constructed properly and that the ballots were actually tabulated correctly when they were cast. Access to the voter rolls, which are carried electronically now. They're not in voter roll books like they used to be years and years and years ago when you would go in and cast your ballot. That needs to be made available to individuals like our listeners and us here so that we can actually verify that everything was done properly.
Okay, so we know we need to get access to the data. How can you certify something if you are restricted from receiving the necessary data to do a real certification, or even some people refer to as an audit, but it's not a full audit, but just even access to get an accurate idea of what's actually happening. But what is going to literally need to happen at the county level, and then even at the state level, what do we need to do to actually make it so we can make this happen?
Well, let's go to the county level first. One other leg of the stool that we need to make it work is we need to provide the Board of Canvassers in each county access to election experts that or election system management system experts that could actually perform the due diligence on the election data.
Would that require new action by the county council, the state legislature?
Ultimately, it's going to be the state legislature.
Okay.
But what we want to do is provide an expert, a company that has the resources to be able to provide people at the individual county level. That would be small teams or individuals at 29 of them for the state of Utah, for example, because we have 29 counties. They would then take the data that I just mentioned, perform due diligence at the county level, say Salt Lake County, Davis, Box Elder, whichever county we have.
Can we currently do that adequately?
We cannot currently do that.
Okay.
And then they would then write a report, give it to the Board of Canvassers. The Board of Canvassers would then make the decision, do I certify this election or not? None of this is available right now under our current election code. The Board of Canvassers do not have access to the underlying data to actually perform the analysis or the due diligence I just mentioned.
That
Most
in
of
and
them-
of itself, Roy, isn't that pretty amazing? That
Oh,
the
yeah.
citizens cannot have access to that data.
Well, that goes to the core. How can you actually certify a process, an election process, for example, has been done properly if you don't have access to the data? But the problem is even more difficult and compounded because the people that are county commissioners and county council members, 99.9% of them are performing that role and responsibility. It's a part-time job. They get paid very little. It's, they have their day jobs. Many of them are farmers or other businessmen, and they can't dedicate an enormous amount of time. Furthermore, they also don't have the training to actually be able to do the type of analysis or due diligence that is required to really do a bona fide certification of an election, even in the smallest county, like Daggett County. They just don't have it. And so what we want to do is be able to give them the resources, but that's going to require legislation by our state. It's going to require a modification of our election laws, and that is why we are starting to work with our elected officials to put together a bill that would codify a real bona fide certification process and give people at the county level the tools, on the one hand, to be able to do a bona fide certification, and on the other hand, give people like ourselves access to the data so that we can check the people who are doing the certification to make sure that they are doing it properly.
Right. I mean, that's the transparency.
That's the
It's
transparency.
It's not only transparency with government officials, Board of Canvass members, for example, that are denied some of the critical information, but also the public. And this doesn't mean that we are going to know which person voted for who. We simply will be able to put the pieces together based on number of people voting, number of ballots cast to totals in different categories to come up with a number. But when certain categories are denied, not only the Board of Canvass members, but the public, it's impossible as it currently stands to do a real certification of the process. Am I correct?
That is correct. And furthermore, what we're advocating here, we have not seen anywhere else in the country, in any county.
And we're talking about the withheld category specifically?
No, not talking about the withheld category specifically. We're talking about whether you're in Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, Colorado. Each of those states, their election is conducted by the county clerks at the county level. They are, quote, then certified. But when you actually look closely at what it means to certify an election, even in those counties, they don't have a bona fide certification process either. So my point is that while we don't have a bona fide certification process here in Utah, we're not unique as a state. We're not unique. It's the same everywhere in every county that we have talked to, in every state that we have spoken with.
Interesting.
So, and yet every state uses the term certification when they talk about an election.
When it's not a certification at all.
When it's not even a certification at all.
Right.
At least in the common definition that we would all think of it, it's not a real certification. So getting the law changed here is what we need to do. But it's also been interesting because when you actually have the conversation with the Board of Canvassers, with the county clerks, and even with some of our state legislators, and you say, well, what does certification really mean? Many of them, not all, but many of them realize, you know what, you're right. We don't really have a certification, at least the way I think it's called certification. It's
Well, the way
something
everybody, the common person would think of a certification. Hey, this is Steve Aste and Roy Piskadlo on KMMU Radio, kmmu.org. Our website is www.electioncertificationmatters.com. You can go onto that website and you can look at everything that we're talking about. We've done a side-by-side analysis of the Sarbanes-Oxley model and how it would work in our election system. We invite you to take a look at that. We're getting ready to start taking some phone calls. We'd love for people to call in. Please call 385-899-2134. You can have the honor of being our first caller, a distinction that will go down in infamy as the call of all calls. I'm quite sure of that. So we're going to just keep rolling and talking about this subject. We're going to have Dwayne Benson come on at about 5 or shortly thereafter to talk about how he's been involved with the election certification process and some of the other things that he's involved with. Roy and I want to have everybody understand that we understand there are so many issues out there. From the CRT, what's going on with the World Economic Forum, the COVID vaccine and COVID itself and all that's around that, the indoctrination of our kids, so on and so forth, our education system. We get it. We understand all those things. But for us, it boils down to, at the end of the day, who we have in office and what are we going to do about it. Who's going to stand up to help ensure that we get the right people in office that will do the right thing. The people know what the right thing is. And we're electing the right people, but we're not convinced that those right people are necessarily getting into office. So we want to ensure transparency in that process. And that's what we're about. That's where we understand, next to God, a belief in God and having a good moral system in place, that we need to start. Election certification. Trust but verify. We're not laying claim that anyone has nefariously acted in actively stealing our elections here in Utah. We're simply saying we want the ability to find out ourselves. So Steve and Roy on Truth or consequences. We want the truth. If you have something we need to know about that you believe is true and you disagree with us, please call in and let us know what that is. We're happy to talk about it. The number is 385-899-2134. So Roy, we've pretty much canvassed the state. When I say canvassed the state, we've gone to now 25 of 29 Utah counties. I'd say out of those 29 counties where we've spoken to 18 or 19 county clerks and a number of Board of Canvass members. We've done that. We feel pretty good about how they've responded to us, what their desires are. In fact, if you go to our website, electioncertificationmatters.com, you can see some of the dialogue that we've had with our county clerks and Board of Canvass members and some of the feedback that they've given us. Right now, we're in the process of actually speaking with state legislators because we understand that they are the ones that have to sponsor a bill that we are literally have put together. We've got what's called a term sheet on it now. And we have a couple of interested legislators that are willing to sponsor this legislation. We're not going to name names at this point until We have it all solidified until we've agreed on the term sheet that's been put together and the points, and we've argued it back and forth. But when the time comes, we will absolutely divulge that information and who we're talking to. There's a number of them that see the need for change and more transparency. And so
we will publish the term sheet to our website, and to the extent that you, the listener, are interested, we'd like to have you read it if you were to take the time to read it, and give us feedback. How would you change it? How would you make it better?
Absolutely. So that's why we went to the clerks and the Board of Canvas members in the first place, wasn't it? To talk to the people that were literally on the ground, that are the ones actually doing it, the tip of the spear, as they say, find out what they need and what to see. And that's helped us in taking the original model of the Sarbanes-Oxley model and then fine-tuning it to meet the needs of the people here, actually conducting the elections. We need as much support as we can. We need people to speak up. We need people to stand up. We need people to get involved, because 2, 3, 4 people cannot do this alone. We cannot take back our country alone. I think that many of you would agree that our country's going to hell, and we have to stop it. Somebody else isn't going to do it for us. I thought that for years, Roy. I thought, okay, government's going to take care of it. Somebody else, good citizen groups, whatever, they're going to take care of it for us. Well, I finally came to the realization 2 or 3 years ago, 2020, that it's us that need to take care of it. So that's when I stood up. And I think you probably even started a little before that, right?
I after the 2020 election, I said, I don't understand what's going on, and I have to understand it before I can actually really start to voice an opinion. And it was through that process that I realized, just as you said, if it's not us, nobody's going to come to our rescue.
They simply are not. We have to do it. We, the people. It was written that way for a reason. Government is supposed to protect our rights, but they're not. They're looking out for themselves. They're growing government. In many cases, they're enriching themselves. I'm not suggesting, or I don't think Roy would, that any and all bad elected officials are bad people. They're not. Many of them, and probably even the vast majority, are trying to do the right thing. But this evil sickness has crept in to where I don't recognize the country anymore, Roy. I don't recognize even the rec centers that we go to, and there's men in women's locker rooms. There's, and it's supposed to be normal. We're supposed to take that as normal. That's just one example. We could go on all day about the ESG that's creeping in, the edict of the World Economic Forum and so forth. Wokeness. And where does that start? It first starts with us standing up and saying, how do I get involved? And there are so many ways to do that we'll cover in coming podcasts and so forth. But just saying, I've had enough. How do I get involved? And actually getting involved. Your neighbor, the guy down the street, the guy across town, they're not going to do it. It's up to you. Now, I know from personal experience that I didn't know what to do. What I do make a difference? But yes, I do believe we can. And if we're persistent, we will come out on top. That's my belief, Roy. What do you think?
No, could not agree more. But it starts with basically understanding the issue and then very clearly voicing your opinion, and then figuring out what is the plan of action. How can I make, besides voicing my opinion, how can I make a difference?
Yeah. And it's just being willing, isn't it? Isn't it just being willing to throw yourself out there?
Yes, and taking the risk that you don't know what you don't know, and then saying, okay, I can figure it out.
Right. And so I knew very little about this process as we entered it, but I've gained a world of knowledge in the past year plus that we've been doing this. We're learning as we go. But what we do know is we will accept the truth when we see it, and we are actively seeking it. And we'll speak to anyone about that. We don't believe that you can create your own truth. There's an absolute truth out there that we need to seek it, we need to find it, we need to embrace it, and we need to spread it. And we need to take this country back from those that would do it harm. I mean, I could speak all day long about open borders and mandates and shutdown of churches and schools.
Even just recently with the interviews given by the presidents of these Ivy League schools, where they couldn't even explain why genocide was something that was normal, that was something that is, that's protected by free speech. And if you think about it, okay, how could we as individuals affect that? It's very hard to impact as individuals impact Harvard, because Harvard has an endowment that is richer than 120 of the world's countries. But
that's incredible.
If you think, it is incredible. It's incredible how much money is there. However, other schools like BYU, like Utah State, like the U of U, rely upon a lot of federal and state money. And to the extent that those universities are going woke and the university presidents are not doing their job and standing up to the students, then the way we impact that is by electing people who say, look, I'm going to pull your funding. The U, saying that to the U. We're saying that to BYU and saying, you're not going to get federal funding or state funding unless you actually enforce freedom of speech, and your policies and procedures are consistent with that. And if you don't stand up to these students, we're going to replace you as the president, or we're going to pull your funding and force you to replace.
And that's not only happening in the private sector. Our government is even getting involved with that tactic, which is contrary to everything that the Constitution stands for. They shouldn't be involved in education from the beginning. That should be at the state and local level. We could do away with the Department of Education, among many others, but to use it as leverage to promote a woke culture is simply wrong and contrary to what our founding fathers had written down for us in the Constitution.
And the only way we can do that as individuals is by electing officials who will take brave stands and take a stand on these things, which might seem controversial. And you can't do that with any confidence without proper election integrity.
That's right. So most of the things that we deal with in daily lives boil down to who we have in office. And is it the right person that we actually elected to go in and stand up to these evil mandates and coercion tactics and tyranny, really? Our government is supposed to be protecting us, watching out for our rights. And so, government needs to get out the business of anything but protecting our borders, protecting our country physically from both foreign and domestic wars and harm, and let the people govern, but let them elect and verify through transparent methodologies our elections, because that's where it starts. And I mean, we could also talk about our country turning into essentially a nihilistic country where it seems to more and more people that it just doesn't matter morally one way or the other what we do. There's no consequence. And we see that with a lot of these cities that are governed, and thugs are taking over the streets, and there's no consequence for their actions. And so they continue to do it. But we're not just seeing it with active thievery and mugging on the street, but just in almost everything that we stand for and
Coming
do.
back to, again, election integrity and how we here in Utah can actually, have an impact. And if you think about it, you see Mayor Eric Adams is now asking for quite a few billions of dollars to take care of the new residents of his city. And he was the one that ran on the platform of being a sanctuary city. He invited these people there, and yet now that he has the consequences of all this money that he's going to have to spend to take care of these people, he's asking for tax dollars from the federal government, and that's from us. It's like, well, screw you. You made your bed, lie in it. Going back to your consequences.
That's right.
And we have to have politicians that are representing us here in Utah that are going to take the stand and say, no, sorry, you've made your bed, you've got to lie in it.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And at least one of our state senators would never do that. He would say, yeah, sure, let's write a check to, several $1 billion to the city of New York to bail them out. Whereas the other senator would say no. And
right.
We can't, and it's very hard to hold these people accountable without a very, without the election integrity.
I agree. That's where it all starts. Again, this is Steve Aste and Roy Piskadlo, and we'd love you to call in and ask some questions. The call-in number is 385-899-2134. That's 385-899-2134. We had scheduled a guest for our second hour. I think we are approaching that now, or actually past it. So we are going to invite in Dwayne Benson. He is a man behind the scenes. I like to call him the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain, pulling all the strings and gadgets to make everything go. He's kind of been with me since I started getting involved and being more active in the matters that concern us here in Utah. He's a tech guy, essentially. He's an expert web designer and has designed many, many websites for free, I might add, for several candidates that have run for office. Generally great guy, other than he's a California transplant, which most of Utah is at this point, but he's a good one. And he's done so much for so many people here in Utah with their campaigns and so forth to help get them elected and other things as well. We would like to invite in our friend, Dwayne Benson. Dwayne, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine, buddy. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. And first, I want to thank you, Steve and Roy, my friends, because you guys are my heroes.
Well,
this is like amazing to me. Okay, I mean, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and thanks for inviting me. I'm not I like you said, I don't even have to give my bio because you just did, but I'm the man behind the curtain. Okay, that's what I do.
well, none of this stuff would go. None of it would have an engine without you, Dwayne. And, I personally am very appreciative. And I know a lot of other people out in this valley and the state really are as well. And all the work that you've donated and all the advice you've given and websites you've set up. And what else have you been doing that I've missed?
Well, you pretty much got it all, but I got to remind you, you guys are live on our website. You're on Twitter. You're on Rumble. You're on YouTube. So you better watch what you say, or we'll get shadow banned here. Okay.
I can say damn, right? I can say that.
Yes, and until we actually go live on real radio, you can say anything you want. When we get to the government regulations, then there's the 7 words you can't say on television. Okay.
So we might get a call from Elon Musk.
Are you going to get
canceled? I hope a call from Elon Musk. Yeah. So
well, I'd love to. He'd be a good interview. Not quite as good as you, but almost.
Well, and I've been manning the phones, and we're just getting started here. So I know you guys would love to have some call-ins. And it was so funny when Lowell called in from Mexico. I'm going, really, Lowell? And it was such a bad connection. I just couldn't connect him because it was buzzy but so we, the ubiquitous we, are KMMU Main Street Media Utah. Okay.
Yeah, it's Dwayne and some others. I'm not going to mention their names until they tell me it's okay to. But
we have a team, and I'm going to get to that. Okay, and we're a nonprofit corporation. We're looking to be the NPR of Utah. Okay.
Can you pick a different one? Not NPR. Can you please?
I know. I'm sorry. Hey,
sorry.
Listen. Here's the deal, okay? We don't care who you are. We want every voice. We're trying to give Utah a voice. And you guys were talking about what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? Well, guess what? We're going to give people a job here, okay? And everybody's, they want to help. Everybody wants to help. And we don't care left or right. It doesn't matter. We don't care about ideologies or tribalism or political groups. Right now, we got a group of about 10 hosts who want to hear all sides of every story. Okay. And
can I jump in here and say that not everyone is of one specific political affiliation, are they?
No. Well, political, religious, we don't have any affiliations. Okay. Now, probably we'll get labeled, because of who we are, but we want to hear from everybody. We want you to interview every politician in the state, okay? Which that's what you're doing. You're going out and talking to everyone. We want to hear all sides, okay? Now, typically, that's a hard thing to do, okay? And I got to tell you, we started this team of creators and hosts. Well, okay, misfits. We're misfits because all of our friends across the state have been begging us for this. You all know the regular mainstream guys, the KSLs and the Salt Lake Tribs and the Deseret News and
sure.
ABC4, and this term that we're talking about is probably overused. We truly believe we'll bring you real, fair, and balanced news and commentary and information. And it goes beyond news, okay? I mean, we just don't care. I'm looking for creators who will come and tell their story, okay? Who will do interviews with the experts because we really want to hear from the experts.
Well,
and we have some lined up.
Let me stop you there, Dwayne. Is there a way that they can get in touch with you if they're interested in becoming part of this process that you're trying to?
Yes, there is. You can go to kmmu.org. Okay, it's easy to remember. We actually found a decent domain name. We are a nonprofit. You can go there, and there's a tab called Contribute. Okay, you can get in touch with me there. We're just looking for your name and your email and your phone, and we'll put you on the air. Okay.
So contribute then doesn't necessarily mean financially. It
means to be a contributor. Become a contributor.
Okay.
We're not looking for money. We're looking for people with voices. Okay.
Of any particular persuasion.
We don't care. We just don't care. And some of you know the big names, the Tim Pools and the Glenn Becks and the Jordan Petersons of the world. Well, we're going to be the smaller ones. We're going to be the Steve Aste and the Roy Piskadlo. Okay, we're going to be the John Twitchell, the Jared Anderson, the Lori Gagan. Lori Gagan has an entire setup for health. She's got a health channel. Her big thing is glyphosate. Okay, and that's Roundup. She doesn't like it, and she's probably right. Okay. And we've got Lowell Nelson. He's all about state sovereignty. We got Delane England, Miss Constitution. And then we got Steve and Roy, you guys.
You took a chance there, buddy. I got to tell you. You just don't know what you're going to get. I'm sorry.
But I'll tell you a little bit about me, okay? Because, and I tell this story, people look at me and they go, "Oh, you're old. What do you know about the internet?" And my reply is always, well, the devil knows more because he's old than because he's the devil. And I'm not saying I'm the devil, but I've been around a long time and I've seen a lot of stuff. Okay. I sound like Han Solo. I've been from one side of this universe to the other. And I started out years ago. I actually went to school to become a computer science guy. And what I learned in school has nothing to do with what I do today with all of this streaming stuff and websites and I'm really happy about all this stuff that's coming together. We're using Restream to stream these things live. I set up the platform and it's not hard. Anybody can do this. So I can show you or anybody. Hey, I taught you and Roy how to use this, didn't I?
Well, let's not time tell that, whether you taught us anything or not.
You guys are doing great. I'm like stoked.
Well, Dwayne, we don't have any trouble talking. It's the tech stuff we have trouble with. We can sit here and talk all day long, but
I've noticed that. Okay, I've noticed that.
Yeah,
but
no,
what you have is valuable information. Okay, and it's so funny because people go, "Oh, they're election deniers," and I'm going, No. They want this so that everyone can understand it and so that they really have a belief in it. And, back in the day, I've always said, elections are fraudulent. And that's really, I better not say that because they'll kick us off of YouTube. But I mean, all the way back to the beginning of time, ballot boxes have been stuffed. We just want to ensure that the results we get are real, right?
Well, exactly right. And let's use the technology that we have in a good way instead of in a bad way to cheat. Let's use it in a good way to verify.
Well, and the other thing about it, like I said, ballot box stuffing has been going on for a long, long time. But there are things we can do, and you guys have a plan to make it transparent and verifiable. Okay, everybody says, "Oh, our elections here are what's the term they use, Steve? We are impeccable." What's the term?
Oh, the gold standard, beyond reproach.
Beyond reproach. Well, okay. Can you show me some evidence of that? And if you look back in
Actually,
time,
they can't because they don't show us anything, and that's part of the problem. They're not allowed to show it to us by state law.
Well, and for years and years and years, when somebody wins, the other side always says fraud, fraud, fraud. Okay, whoever it is. I mean, look at the Al Gore situation.
Sure.
Florida and the hanging Chad. So if we had some way, if you guys can show us the way, let's make it transparent. Let's make it so there's no question. Okay?
We believe that we can, Dwayne. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing it. And quite honestly, we just need to convince the legislators because I think they don't know what they don't know. They're not intimately involved with the day-to-day process of our elections. And many of them, quite honestly, by their own admission, don't even know what the laws are because it's a cumbersome document that over the years has gotten so convoluted, long, and quite honestly irrelevant to today's times. And they, instead of redoing it, they just add to it and add to it and add to it, which makes it even more cumbersome, more difficult to understand, etc. And so we think we need to clean the slate a bit, not entirely, but add in some of this certification protocols that absolutely need to take place. In coming podcasts, we will in detail demonstrate what that is. I mean, it's not complex, but it would take time to explain it in its entirety. But we'll get there. And it's interesting. I was actually on a phone call with a state legislator just over the weekend, and I had sent a letter out rebutting a report that came out from the lieutenant governor's office. Some local political science professors were hired, and I got an immediate response from a state legislator that said, "You're just sore because you ran for an election and you lost. Isn't that why you're doing this?" And I said, "No, actually, it's not why I'm doing it." And I said, "You don't believe there's any election fraud because you won. Isn't that the same thing? If you had lost, maybe you'd be in my position. Although that's not the reason. It's quite the opposite. I actually ran for a House district seat, House of Representatives here in Utah. I was primaried, lost in the primary, and he made the assumption that I was irate about that because I'd lost. But the honesty, truthfully, is I ran because I knew and believed there was election fraud. So it came as no surprise that I didn't win, and I'm not entirely suggesting that's why I lost.
And you know, I helped you with it. Oh, Roy, go ahead. Go ahead. You had something to say.
What I was going to say was, Steve turned it back on this gentleman, saying, "And you don't think that there's any election fraud because you won? Aren't you? Is that a tenable position to have? Is that a reasonable conclusion to reach? And if so, why do you think that?" It's like the guy was you told me he just didn't have a response because there really isn't a response.
Well, the other part of that, I worked with Steve on a bunch of stuff, websites and data, and I'm almost kind of glad you lost, Steve, because be careful what you wish for, Yeah. And the outcome of it is we're just on a search for information. That's all you're doing, right?
Yeah, and truth.
Well, and put in action steps to actually try to implement what we think would work.
Well, taking that information and data that we've gathered and talking to not only elected officials and county clerks, et cetera, but other people that are concerned, just citizens like you and I. And actually, like Roy said, taking action steps to actually do something about it based on the information that we've gathered.
Well, and I'm sure people have a lot of questions. Since we're just getting started, my phone bank has been up for just about an hour, and we've only gotten one call. But I have a suspicion that when you guys start talking more about this, and the word gets out, we're going to have call-ins. I mean, that's really our basis here. Is we want people to call in and have a discussion. We want a discussion. Okay,
that's it.
That's our goal. And one of the things I did, I think I have put in the chat all of our links to YouTube, to Rumble, to Twitter, to KMMU. KMMU, we are coming to you live from KMMU.
Well, and how can people access those links?
I think they'll show up in the chats of this particular broadcast, and then they can just keep them and go back. The other thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a lot of advertising and spreading the word about. We're connected to just 60 or 70 different organizations in the state, and we're going to have them send send the word out to everyone so that this thing grows. Our goal is to make it big. We want to be okay. what should I call it, Steve? You don't like NPR. What do we want to be? Do we want to
I
be the
think-
Tim Pool of Utah?
No, I think we just need to go on our own and stand on our own 2 feet.
Okay. That
And,
makes sense.
and make a whole new brand that stands for a whole new thing. And that's truth.
Well,
we want to seek the truth and have the integrity and character to adjust to that truth if that's not our current belief. There can't be 2 truths that are opposing, in my view. There is an absolute truth, and we can't.
I've always said the truth is a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways. Okay, so but there is only one truth. Okay, and if someone wants to come and talk about gender ideology or any of this stuff, we would love to have them on. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Come talk to us about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Climate. Come and talk to us about climate. What is your opinion? How do you think it works? We want to be the voice of Utah. Okay.
No, I get it for sure, and that's why Roy and I agreed to do the show. Can you give us a quick rundown? Maybe you don't know all of them off the top of your head, but can you give us a quick rundown of who those people are and what they're likely to be talking about?
Well, yeah, I kind of ran through the list, and it starts with you.
Run through it again. Just run through it again.
Yeah, absolutely. It starts with you and Roy, and then we have John Twitchell, who's had a regular talk show on K Talk for a couple of years.
Just let me ask the question then. Will he continue to be on K Talk, or will he be making an entire switch over?
It all depends. It all depends on his schedule, okay? Because he really wants to do both, but he may have to make a choice just because of the time that's involved. I mean, these guys who are going to do these shows, these presentations, it's not just the 2 or 4 hour segment that goes into this. You've been studying this stuff for 2 years, okay? Right. And you got to prepare and you got to do all of that. I mean, we have Jared Anderson from 12 Happy Hour. He's going to be joining us.
What has he been talking about, Dwayne? What are his issues and what
he loves to interview our legislature, okay? And that's what he's going to be doing on our show, okay?
Does he point to any specific areas of concern?
No, he lets them talk. Now, he may have some issue that's coming up that's, some legislative issue that he wants to talk to them about and what their thoughts are on it. So it's going to be topical. It'll be, what's our legislature doing? He wants to like you guys are doing about your election integrity. He just wants to talk to all of them. Okay. And truly what this is going to do is it's going to give the legislators a platform if they'll come and talk to us. Okay.
Right.
A lot of them don't want to talk.
Hey, a lot of them don't want to talk. I was recently up, Roy and we were trying to speak on an issue relating to election integrity. We waited through the whole presentation. We stood up to give our 3-minute rebuttal, and they shot us down. They said, "Oh, we're not taking public comment." And I turned to Roy and I said, "Are you ready to bail me out of jail? Because I'm going to speak up anyway." And these are the kind of people that we're battling against, Roy. And this is a person that doesn't understand that he works for the people and that he needs to listen to the people. And they just don't care.
Things have gotten spun, but I think if we just reveal it, people will begin to understand. I'm a refugee from California, and when I came to Utah, I was amazed. I was a little bit of culture shock for me, but I got to tell you, I feel like I died and went to heaven because the people here are so wonderful. They're just great people. We just need to get them the information they need, and that's your job. Okay, so.
Well, we can talk all day long. You get it out, and to that point, what kind of you'd mentioned you're going to be reaching out in a serious way. What kind of marketing tools and tactics are you going to apply to spread the word?
Well, we're going to be using very grassroots approach. Okay, like I said, we're connected to groups all around the state, various health groups and political groups, and just everybody. I mean, Lori Gagan, who's one of our creators, one of our hosts, she's got all kinds of health people lined up, and you know, it's going to be a discussion on how we're being poisoned by the big pharma, you know, and by big, like I said, her main focus is the stuff called glyphosate, and that's Roundup. She thinks there's much better ways to deal with weeds than spraying this poison around, and she's got a team. Okay, it's like I mentioned Jared Anderson in Tuella Happy Hour. He's got a team like you and Roy. He's got Holly that's going to be on with him. And Lori's got 3 other professionals, Kathleen and Jessica and Patty. They're going to be talking all about health. Lowell Nelson, he'll be on talking about his he and Delane England with their constitutionality stuff. And little by little, we're going to expand. I've got interviews coming up with another 10 hosts. Okay. So
what are some of those people interested in talking about, Dwayne?
Well, the list goes on and on. Okay, I mean, a lot of them are health oriented. Some of them are interested in other issues like land and water rights, and you know, we're in a state that is just rich with everything, and sometimes we're being encroached on by the federal government. Okay. So,
Yeah, and I'd say in a big way.
well, and there's a lot of issues that people want to discuss, and we want to invite people from. We don't care what side you're on. We're not tribal here. Okay. We want to hear from everybody, and if there's a reason that you want those lands shut down. I mean, yeah, I used to deal with the Sierra Club in California. They truly believed that, you know, when we go marching around in the woods, we're messing things up. And to some degree, they're right, because I would pick up other people's trash when I'd go hiking. Okay, so so we have a whole bunch of different topics that we're going to be talking about. And if somebody out there has a topic they want to talk about, bring it on.
Bring it on. Hey, and bring it on to Roy and I too. We're not solely stuck on election integrity. That's just the base of our efforts, because we believe it expands out into just about every area of life. And if we don't have fair elections, we can't make change in any other areas. If we don't have our duly elected representatives taking the stand based on the reasons that we elected them or selected them in the first place to represent us.
And just so you know, we have a bunch of people lined up coming, big names, people who want to get on our platform and talk. Okay, I mean, I can't really go into the list, but trust me, we got some big people. I think you were even talking to a couple of them, weren't you, Steve?
We are. This was our inaugural show, and we knew there'd be a total of 10 listeners. So we decided to hold off until we build up our base a little bit. And speaking of that, we'd love to talk to you. Please call 385-899 to talk to Roy, Steve, and Dwayne Benson, who is our first guest today. That's 385-899-2134. Come on, friends and family. Throw us a bone here. Call. We'd love to talk to you, even for just a minute. Ask Dwayne, Roy, or myself any questions.
Well, and if a call comes in, you know, I'm your call screener right now. We're working on getting some interns to be call screeners and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, Dwayne is literally the man behind the curtain right now for us and for this show, and we couldn't have a better guy there.
Well, and I'll tell you a little bit about me, Steve, because people always they want to know how did I get to this place. Well, and basically I own and run a hosting company. I'm a mini GoDaddy, very mini. Okay.
Why don't you give us your contact information for your business?
Well, I can put that in the chat, but I'm not here to promote me.
I'm not promoting. You're not promoting you. I am.
I'm here to promote KMMU. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Give you a chance, buddy.
and you know, it's like, it's so funny. You guys are our guinea pigs, and who knew what was going to happen here? And obviously, like you said, there's probably not anybody listening yet, but they will. They're, you know, I talk to people all over the state, and I mentioned this. Everybody wants to help. They want to do something. They're tired of, you know, standing on the sidelines and whining. They want something to do. So we're going to give them something to do with this radio platform.
Okay. So aside from the actual hosts of the show and guests, what can people do?
Well, one of the things that's going to happen with this is we are going to be setting up subscriptions. Okay. And we're looking for advertisers. So advertisers, we're giving out free advertising for now until we start getting eyeballs. And anybody who wants a tag on our website and to be in our commercials, which we're going to get there. We're going to be inserting. I'm sorry. Now we've got to sell you something. Okay. Just because we need to be able to stay. I mean, so far it's a nonprofit. I have fronted a bunch of money and time, and little by little, we're going to need somebody to help pay for it. But that's future. Okay. So that we'll have advertisers. We're looking for more hosts. We're looking for people to subscribe. There will be a subscription on the website. Okay. And we're going to give away everything away free at first. Of course, there's really no free, but we're going to be giving you access to all of our archives. We've already got a big set of archives of stuff that John's done and stuff that Lowell's done. We've got Jason Preston in our archives. And so eventually we're going to ask somebody like Epoch Times does to pay. And it's going to be about the same kind of a thing, you know, a couple of dollars a month. Whatever you're spending on a Starbucks, we need your help. Okay. So,
right.
So very, very shortly, there's going to be a subscription. And then there's going to be
aside from the financial aspect of it, and obviously, if, you know, we need money to run just about anything. Is there anything that anyone else can do to help out?
Yes, we're also looking for interns, people who can do what I've been doing, which is, you know, monitor the phone calls, be our call screener, help out with managing the shows. We have a couple of behind the scenes people. I don't know if Katie wants me to mention her name, but we have some great people, and we're looking for more. Okay.
Okay. And again, Dwayne, how can they get a hold of you?
Go to KMMU.org and click on contribute. And it's not for money, it's for other things that they can help us with.
Yeah. Time, money, effort.
We're looking for writers. We're gonna have an entire curated section of written information. Of course, nobody reads anymore, so there'll be writing. There'll be links to other news articles. We're going to be the Matt Drudge of Utah in that respect, and we need people to help with curating. We need people to help with writing. We have people all over the state that are just dying to start doing that, some written stuff. Okay.
Right.
Well, like I said, nobody reads anymore, but that's okay. We'll have some things.
I know that you
are you going to hook up software that allow people to listen to the articles?
Well, we're hoping that they're going to listen to our broadcasts, to you guys. Okay.
Yeah, but if you're putting stuff up there that's being written and articles, as you said, a lot of people don't read anymore. It would be helpful. I'm sure there's software out there, and I'm sure you can make it work. That where people could actually just listen to whatever the group of people who's writing stuff are going to be putting up.
Yeah, like books on tape kind of a thing. Yes. There will be audio. And a few of our shows, like right now, we're just doing audio here. Okay. Eventually, when we get everybody, when we get the tech all in order, we're going to have full on video. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, wait a second. Roy and I both only have faces for radio.
Okay.
That might be a problem for us.
Well, that's what John Twitchell says. I got a face for radio.
Can we like wear masks or something?
You can be the unknown pundits. You put a bag over your head, okay?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me, okay? Because people always want to know how I got into this mess that I'm in.
Yeah, please do.
Well, and it started way back in the 80s. Okay, I worked for Hughes Aircraft. I worked for Computer Sciences Corporation. I worked for SDC Unisys, and I was in the rockets and bombs business. I worked on F-14s and EA-6s, which is like 2 generations back with aircraft. Okay, with the jets, with the fighter jets, and I had to get out of that business because I keep thinking I'm just blowing people up. I'm making bombs and rockets, and so then I went into the banking business, and it was just as disillusioned there. Banks suck. They're giant monolithic, and banks are a mess. Banks are, you can see it all around you. Another topic that we could talk about is banks failing. Why is that happening? Here are companies that operate on interest. You'd think they could stay in business. I can get a better rate from the mafia than I get from B of A with their credit cards.
Speaking of banks, I actually went in to deposit a couple of checks earlier this week, and I made some joke to the teller, and I said, well, pretty soon we won't be talking about our FICO scores anymore. We'll be talking about ESG scores. And even the guy that manages the bank, they all look at me and they go, what is that?
I know.
And I thought, you're kidding me. You don't know what ESG is? So I had to explain to them what ESG was and how it's, trickling down to just about every aspect of our economy and daily lives, and will be thrust upon us in massive ways before we even know it, and before most people even know what it is.
Well, and a lot of these acronyms, ESG, environmental, social, and corporate governance. It's like it's this big long thing, and it's mysterious.
Well, people think of it as conspiracy theories when we can actually look at it and see that it's real, that it's actually happening now.
And the banks are going to be coming out with their own cryptocurrency type stuff, and it's knowing what I know about encryption and what goes on, I scratch my head and go, really? There are a lot of people making a lot of money on Bitcoin, okay? But that's an entire other topic. Somebody wants to come on and talk about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, please come join us. We'd love to hear about it.
No, that's true. I know several people.
It's a big thing. It's a big thing, and it's coming to a bank near you.
Well, okay? I think looking back at that conversation that I had with the bank tellers and the manager, the cryptocurrency was what sparked the overall conversation. Is that people are pushing for that in the banks now in a big way.
Well, and I mean it's another acronym, CBDC. People go, what's that? Central Bank Digital Currency. And they turn all of these things into these cute little acronyms, ESG, CBDC, and nobody really knows what's going on, okay? You hear about it, and then when you start talking about it, they go, conspiracy theory. And I'm going, I got to say, I shouldn't mention this name, Alex Jones. It was so funny to hear him on Tucker Carlson after he'd been, completely buried for a couple of years. So there's all of these things people call conspiracy, and it's like, my joke is, conspiracy. There's a difference between conspiracy and truth, and it used to be about a year between conspiracy and truth. Now it's down to about 2 months. Okay.
Yeah.
but it's all a big mystery to people. And that's what we're going to try and do is reveal the truth.
Well,
Okay.
that's why we're on board with you guys and what you're trying to do. I want to give our callers one last chance to call in. You'll be the first. You'll go down in infamy. It's 385-899-2134. We got about 15 minutes left. Call 385-899-2134.
So we've been up for almost 80 minutes waiting for phone calls, and we did get one. We got a call from one of our constituents. He's on vacation in Mexico. I'm going, really? You're calling from Mexico?
He's a good man. To pay attention and call from Mexico. He's a good man.
It just the call quality just wasn't going to work.
So let's talk a little bit, Dwayne. And I know we could talk about ourselves all day long, and we don't want to bore people entirely to death. But what is the schedule looking like, so we can tell our listener when to tune in again and what that program might be? How is the itinerary filling out so far?
We are filling what people used to call drive time. Okay. That's why you're on now from 4 to 6. But we're going to have 5 days a week, 4 hours a day, filled with this kind of stuff. Okay. And it's all, like I said, we're running on Rumble and YouTube. So it's all recorded. It's all going to go into a repository, but our schedule right now, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday.
When is the next scheduled show?
Oh, you're asking the wrong guy. That's really a question for our curator, but and I'd go look, but
You're busy at the moment?
Yeah, I'm busy. I don't keep this stuff.
I was curious for myself, and to further that line of discussion, how often have people committed to doing shows? Is it once a week generally? Once every 2 weeks? What do you see?
Our hosts are coming up once a week, about just like you guys. Do you guys have a show scheduled for next week?
I don't know that we do. We'll have to double check that. But
See,
I think
even you don't know. You want me to know what your schedule is? You don't even know.
Yeah, but you're the man behind the curtain, Dwayne. Come on.
Yeah, but I'm just the tech weenie. Okay, I don't keep track of schedules. That's my lady Katie. She's the cruise director. Okay.
I think we did schedule 2 weeks out.
I think you did.
But we were initially scheduled for the Thursday show, and then I heard that someone else wanted that time slot, so we moved it to Wednesday. So I'm just curious how, what the response has been, and
and I think like Lori, she's got four team members. Okay, Lori Gagan, and she was concerned that she couldn't fill 4 hours, and then all of a sudden it was like, we're not going to have enough time.
With 4 people, that may be difficult. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, they may need to take 2 days. Who knows?
Are they taking a 2 or a 4 hour slot then? Do you know?
I'm pretty sure they're taking 4 hours tomorrow.
Tomorrow? You did know something. You said you didn't know.
They're the ones you wanted Thursday, and they bumped you. Okay.
Yeah.
But God bless you guys for doing what you're doing.
Well, no, we're appreciative of you, and please give the people or the persons that may be listening how they can get in touch with the organization again, Dwayne.
You can go to KMMU.org, and on that page you will see a thing that says contribute. It's one of the tabs at the top. Get in touch with us. We need you. Sound like Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
Uncle Sam needs you.
Hey, get in on the ground level, because we've had several meetings, and we believe in what's going on here. And we don't care what your beliefs are. We just want you to be able to speak freely and speak the truth, because I think that's what we're all after. We're not after BS. We just want constructive dialogue, the truth, to come up with real solutions to what clearly is, a plethora of problems in Utah and the United States and really the world.
Well, and really, we are Utah centric. Now, obviously, there's topics that are going to come up that are more national. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm interested in Utah. I want to help this state, and think global, but act local, because there's not much I can do about stuff that's going on in New York, and there's a reason I left LA. Okay, but here I see just mountains of opportunity to help, to increase, to grow the economy, to help people. I'm probably going to end up with a show of my own about mental illness, okay? Because I have a son with schizophrenia, and it's been a topic of mine for a long time. I was on the board of directors of National Alliance on Mental Illness in LA, so that's probably going to end up being my contribution, is helping people with all of this mental illness stuff. I mean, there's so many topics that we can work.
Okay? Endless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Endless. I think that's gonna probably be. I've talked to a bunch of people about it. I'm gonna do what I can. I mean, it's so sad since COVID, people got locked down, and there's depression and drug abuse and suicide, and there are things that can be done about it. Things that can be done.
Right, I agree with you. I think you'd be really good at that. You should do it.
That's my goal. I'm going to probably have. I don't really want a show, Steve. I don't. I got enough to do.
Well, I think many of us are in that same boat, Dwayne. I mean, Roy, expert marksman, shooter. What do you call that again? What's the technical for what you do?
Tactical shooting.
And I think we love to ski, we love to golf, we love to fish, we love to this and that. And, but we feel compelled to give back, and we feel compelled to stand up and actually do something constructive and try to inspire other people to stand up with us and speak the truth and have constructive dialogue. And that's why we're doing it.
Well,
I mean,
the world. Well, the world's on fire, Steve, and we all know it. We can see it. We can see the economy. We can see what's going on. The world's on fire, and maybe some of us can apply a fire extinguisher. I don't know. That's my goal, is help where I can. Okay.
Well, we've certainly got to try. We'll never know if we don't try. And the Lord said, well, we are here. We are to occupy. And that means getting involved and taking control with God's help to govern this beautiful gift of life and land and opportunity that we've been given, and to preserve it, and not sit idly by and bury our talent in the dirt and expect something to happen.
Well, yeah, and my dad had a bunch of sayings, stuff my dad said. He'd say, it's the present, okay? They call it the present because it's a gift. It's the present. It's a present. So I try to make the best of it. I haven't always done that, okay?
None of us have.
Yeah. Nobody is perfect. And a lot of these people, they want perfection. It's not going to happen. There is no perfection.
Right.
We're all human.
We can certainly make our position better and try to help others to do the same.
Yes, well, and dang it, if you didn't fill two hours tonight, Steve and Roy, thank you, gents.
Well,
thanks to your help.
Your help, and we certainly couldn't have done it without you. And we look forward to doing more, to getting better at it, to getting more articulate about what it is we're trying to do. And
well, and I think as the word starts spreading, we'll have more call-in people, because that's really, we really want people to participate. Okay, call us.
I think
get
people,
on the line.
well, and I think people, if they've not done it, have a little bit of anxiety about it, maybe too.
Well, I used to call in once in a while when I was in LA. We had KABC was a talk radio station, and every once in a while I'd get all heated and call in. Well, people are out there are getting heated. It's bad out there, whatever the topic. So we're going to keep going. We're going to be doing live stuff, and you'll be able to call in 385-899-2134. We're going to encourage them all. Okay.
Yep. Well, we appreciate the opportunity. We appreciate the opportunity to get our message out there, what Roy and I are doing, and just encourage others to stand up and get involved. Anybody can do it. I mean, you don't have to have a degree in any particular thing. You just have to have the desire and will to stand up and be heard.
Well, we're trying to build a team of journalists who can ask questions, and like I said, we have people lined up that are going to come and fill in on these shows. Okay, these broadcasts. We have big people. We've been digging. Our fearless leader, he's been working on this for 2 years. And then when he met me and I said, well, we can do this technically. The technology's there. No big deal. And he said, that's easy for you to say. But here you are. Here you are, Steve. Here you are, Roy. You guys you're proof of the pudding, right?
Hell, if we can do it, anybody can.
That's true.
Well, I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
Well, we'll say it. And you're going to have to get us a list of those 7 words, because I'm not sure what they are. But
it's George Carlin's skit.
Yeah,
you got to go look up George Carlin's skit on the 7 words you can't say on television.
Oh,
and, yeah.
You've taken that and codified it in some rule somewhere, or?
Well, he got it from the FCC. Okay, that's where it came from. Yeah. The 7 deadly words, things you can't say on television. And yeah, there's the F-bombs in there. Okay. All right.
Well, when I turn the TV on, I hear just about everything. So I'm not sure what that is. So
yeah. Well, they've gotten looser over time. Okay.
You know what I'd like to do, Roy? I think we need our man on the street guy that we can check in with, that's interviewing people and so forth.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I'd like that man on the street. You don't like that idea?
Well,
interview people with questions to see, questions.
I don't know how we work it into this format.
Well, don't you have the ability
to record it? You'd have to record it, I guess, and throw it in the middle or something.
That's true. But
you have a third member of the team that goes out, because we can do these. This restream will work from a phone. Okay.
Yeah. But you have the ability to put video once we go. I mean,
yeah.
I know that we're going to go live with video, but you can insert clips into a presentation.
Yes, okay. we can drop stuff in the middle, and one of the things that I'm working on right now, I'm working with some guys from Colorado. We're going to be putting the bumper on they call it an intro and an outro, the bumper music on the front and the bumper music on the end, and that kind of stuff. We'll drop announcements in the middle. One of the things that we really want to do is we want to start each show with a little. If you listen to radio, you'll hear that they have these little news snippets. That's whatever's happening in the world right now. Okay.
Sure.
And it's a little 3-minute thing that we can slide in. So we got a lot of work to do.
Well, we'll get there, Dwayne, and we appreciate the opportunity today. I see that we're about out of time now.
You went over, Steve. It's 6:02 according to my clock.
Yeah, it's my bedtime. So.
But yeah, people keep telling me I'm talking to all of these creators, these hosts, and they're going, how am I going to fill 2 hours? And how am I going to fill 4 hours? And it's like, you pretty soon, once you get used to this, you're going to be going, oh, I'm out of time already.
Yeah. It did seem to go by fairly quickly, didn't it, Roy?
Yeah.
I can't believe you guys have been on here for 2 hours.
I've got to go to a GOP meeting tonight.
Oh yeah, Roy actually has to go to a GOP meeting right now, so that's probably a good place for us to end off, Dwayne. And I want to thank you again, and thank
Well,
everybody.
I want to thank you too. I mean, it's the Mutual Admiration Society here, but hey, God bless you, you gentlemen. And I use that term loosely.
What? And we resemble that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, my friend. And this is Steve Aste and Roy Piskadlo and our guest Dwayne Benson signing off from KMMU radio.org.
Good night, gents.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.